Hello everybody, my name is Anthnwam. Welcome back to Suzerain. Last time we had a coronation ball. It was great until someone got shot to death. So, we've kind of got to deal with the consequences of that. So we have a security briefing or dinner with the family at home. Let's start with the security briefing. I arrived at the front doors leading to the situation room. Today's security briefing was arranged in two parts, starting with the internal matters and moving on to external matters after a short break. Minister of Interior Lilith Graff and Minister of Justice and Law Nia Morgana will join us for the third part, the law enforcement briefing. For the second part, the Minister of Defense, Isav Lasia, will join us with a few high-ranking officials, including the Chief of the Armed Forces, Vulcan Kruger. I open the door. Lucia, Nia, Elysius rose to their seats. Sir? Please take your seats. Everyone in the room sat down except for Lucien. He put on his glasses and went through the document in front of him. Shortly after, he raised his head to address the attendees. Mr. President, ladies, we will kick off today's meeting with an internal security briefing. I'm assuming everybody has already been over the agenda. We have available busy schedules. So without further ado, I will jump into our first topic. As we feared, the political atmosphere has worsened. The reports around the country indicate that tensions are rising as we feared. What's the status on the Bernard Kirkus investigation? We received news this morning that the investigation into the murder of Bernard Surkas has concluded. Please enlighten us. The more we know, the better. As for the research and testimonies, we have confirmed the intention and also the events leading up to the shooting. A few days prior, members of the Red Youth initiated a violent attack on a young sword local leader in Jen. We believe the young swords then called for revenge, leading to the death of Mr. Circus. Since he often spoke against the young swords and national sentiments in the assembly, he was a big target, not to mention his radical communist views. Political violence needs to stop. Yes, we kept it at bay for so long, but it seems that there are now new triggers. Lilith hands over a report and pointed at the highlighted section of the document. The investigation revealed a very troubling fact. The funding source for Red Youth has clear link to United Cortona. You know, what does this mean? That the communist superpower is meddling in our affairs. Several Red Youth members have ties to United Cortona and have been detained and informed, and with the information extracted them, points to preparation for a communist uprising in Sordland. It isn't unusual for superpowers to influence other nations, but I think the case is a little far-fetched. The laugh lacks popular support in Sordland. Nia eagerly lifts her hands. I mentioned her to speak. I went over the report in detail. It would be wrong to jump to conclusions that a clear foreign power influence yet. United Katana has humanitarian and cultural ties with many countries, including Sordland. Also, don't want to jump to conclusions. We shouldn't create a crisis with them. Nearly 3 decades ago, they funded General Rickon and tried to establish a communist dictatorship in our country. If it was not for Colonel Sol, we would have seen the real crisis. She took a sip from her glass of water and continued. Our police chief, Carl Griesner, has linked the funneling channel to United Cortana consulate in Benfi. As we know, the enemies of Sordland are many, but we have threats inside the country. We need to remain vigilant as people and nation. If we give up essential freedoms to purchase temporary security, we deserve neither freedoms nor security. This is debatable, but yes, we have to know, we know what more security and surveillance caused this country under President Sol. Let's not forget that President Sol, God bless him, brought stability after a long period of bloodshed and chaos. But moving on. Our highest internal threat comes from the established 20,000 strong Bloodish Freedom Front, led by the imprisoned Delwyn Arledge. They are a banned political organization, and now a militant force that are trying to incite racial violence. Are they supported by our boldest citizens? To some extent. Luckily, they couldn't attract a wide audience of bulls, but they could potentially attract thousands of anti-bloodist sentiment spreads in Sordland again. Lilith points to page 3 of the report. Our tribes intercepted 2 crates of weapons close to the Rumburg border. They are filled with military-grade Ka-74s. We expect that more have been smuggled in since the group of Bloods were caught with these guns at a checkpoint not far away. Rumburg had been acting aggressively in the region for some time. It's not surprised that they would attempt to weaponize the Bloodist people against us. This is worrying, very worrying. Remberg is... Are they the people up north? Are they people that don't like us? Yes. They're the ones that have bad relations with us. I don't actually know which option I want to take. You know what? We need to take a level-headed with Rumburg. They're looking for reason to take action. They will play dirty if we play nice. It is a battle we will lose. This is grave news. We must be careful not to stoke the fires of anti-blood settlement. What's the second most important threat? It is the gang violence that is threatening the Nagris and Agland regions. Two prominent organized crime families are at war, and the potential for bloodshed is real. Which two crime families? One is known as the Cornelli, the other known as the Skinner Cartel. They used to be allies until recent disagreement. Both are active in the cities of Nurbel and Estord. So Lilith is, Minister of the Interior. Lilith, I trust that you can handle him. I'm doing my best, sir. Lilith's graph sighs deeply. I shall be honest with you. With our current capabilities, we may not be able to prevent any further arming of separatists while maintaining our order in Burga, Nargis, and Agland. If the law enforcement budget is increased, I can't be fully responsible for what happens. Our police units are spread thin as it is. In light of this information, I might increase the law enforcement budget. We rid our country of separatists and violent thugs if you do so. I wish you would stop using the word thugs, Lilith. The real problem is corruption, which is fueling the gang violence and is very likely the reason why these weapons are smuggled in. Higher budget could help us end that. Corruption is the root of all evil. We can look at corruption once the weapons have been found and the gangs have been beaten. Just like the previous administrations kicking a can down the road. This is what is destroying our institutions. Lilith and Nia were openly scowling at each other. Lilith turned back to her notes. I find it very interesting that all of our ministers don't like each other. Not at all. Well, this concludes our topics for internal problems. Thank you for the updates, Mrs. Graff and Mrs. Morgana. And thank you for the overview. Have a good day. Until next time. Two ministers left the room. We took a short break for continuing to the second part. Upon invitation, Isa of Lesia, along with three high-ranking officials from the Ministry of Defense, walked to the room. One of the men was none other than General Kruger, the chief of the armed forces. What? Oh, in this picture, I thought he had a fake eye or a glass eye, but no, it's just the way the picture is getting shrunk down. Yosef made his way towards the table when the others stood by the door. Mr. President. Yosef, welcome. I brought General Kruger with me due to the escalation on our borders. General Kruger stepped forward and saluted. He had a strong jaw with sharp cheekbones. His tall structure, uniform and medals, combined with his deep and intense stare, made him look threatening. He was in his 70s, yet he had a bulky body that was the result of his commando training. Not only was he the second most decorated officer in Sordland, he was also the longest serving. I'll salute him. He smiled at his gesture and bowed his head in respect. Isa tapped his foot impatiently. He seemed uneasy with the presence of other high-ranking officer in the room. Gentlemen, thanks for coming to the significant gathering. Let's begin. Isa and Vulcan took their seats at the table with the rest of the officers stood by the door. Mr. President, the situation at the western and northern borders towards Rumburg is very tense. We are observing deployment of divisions close to our border. Rumburg has been acting increasingly expansionist in the past decades and has also intervened in Angnolia, but now they have turned their sights on us. What is your current strategy? Patrolling close to the borders with our border force and keeping Army Reserves divisions near. It seems they want to increase the pressure both externally and internally. Mr. President, if I may. Please, General. The picture is becoming clear. The latest information from the interior about the weapons caches, and now there's an active military builder close to our borders. The entire situation was analyzed by our general staff, and our prediction is a future territorial incursion by Rumburg. I have complete trust in the general staff. We will not let you down, Mr. President. The general staff is comprised of the smartest military individuals. I require an increase in military budget to enlist more soldiers. Only then can we stay strong against our enemies. And a large armed force will hold them at bay. Vulcan is right. We do need to increase the military budget to have a more capable force to face a regional power to defend Sordland. Two of our more talented officers are voicing a common opinion. That is an understatement. Times are changing and war is coming, Mr. President. Whether we like it or not, we must be prepared. During the election, you said nothing about focusing on our military. I asked you to reconsider this and to increase our military budget. The future and safety of Sordland is in your hands. They said times will change Joseph, we will see. A glimmer of hope was seen on Joseph's face. Our forces would crumble under a decrease, and Rurenburg would be much more compelled to exploit our weakness. Our country hasn't fallen to any invasion force in 200 years. You cannot let that happen, Mr. President. We can find regional allies like Vassland or Lesbia to deter Rurenburg. There are several options on the table. These options should be considered. They could be considered, but why pander to others when we can solve these issues ourselves? We have no true friends outside these borders. Everyone fell silent when a soldier entered the room and let Joseph Leka know that a call had come through from the ministry. Excuse me, Mr. President. Joseph has left the room to answer. A few minutes later, he entered the room again. His expression had changed. Mr. President, there have been Rurenburgian military activity close to the Narbel border. I just spoke with the local commander. Narbel is over here. Okay. Falcon, we should go to the ministry and get further updates for our branches. Understood. Raise military readiness is the first call to action. There's a truly an extraordinary attempt. We will relay it to you immediately and await for your further orders, Mr. President. Make sure they know we are observant and ready. Always watching, always ready is our motto, sir. Hail, Sordland. Hail. They saluted and left the room. Rurenburg was already testing us, and reports from interior indicate interference from outside our borders. Communists, nationalists, bloodless rebels, Rurenburg expansionism. What was next? Sordland had always been a key place in the chessboard of the global rivalry between Arcasia and United Cartana, but in recent years, there was no such aggression from Rurenburg, at least not at these levels at least. All it takes is one tiny spark to start the flames of war. The phone rang. Rurenburg had decided to close their consulate in Lackfiend. No, that seems foreboding. No, that seems very, very bad. You got police are understaffed here. What are the news saying? Rurenburg closes consulate. The closing consulate in Sordland, one of the few Eastern nations that do not have ties to the Northern Kingdom. Yeah, no, this seems bad. Instructions once again. You are talking about truth behind the economic crisis, gang violence, rumors of an infrastructure project, and there is unity despite differences. And yeah, the guy got shot. So next up, Arcasia develops first ICBM. Intelligence reports that Arcasia has successfully completed the Ep.4, an intercontinental ballistic missile, which has been estimated capacity to actually destroy targets at 1,000 kilometers of range. Okay, well that seems also maybe a little bit dangerous. But you know, let's have. It's been a long day. Let's go see our wife, our kids, and just relax. Also, the economy seems 4 out of, I'm assuming, I think that's 10. Yeah, 4 out of 10 seems bad. After a long day at the palace, I was finally home. I thanked Sergei and walked through the front doors, nodding at the 2 guards as I went by. Even as I turned the doorknob, I can hear Dina rush down the stairs to greet me. Open the doors, and there she was, sitting in front of me with expectant eyes. Papa, you're home! I'm gonna lift and hug her. I lifted Dina up and hugged her while trying to put the keys in a tray next to the entrance. She was growing fast. Living her was no longer as easy as it once was. And that was school. Boring. I liked my old school better. I put her down. I put her down like, poof! And her expression turned serious. Papa, are the bad men gone? Yes, your papa took care of everything. Okay, Papa. Dina dashed down the hallway. Mama, Papa's here. Monica appeared next to the kitchen door. She's wearing an apron and holding a spatula in her hand. Dina, what did I tell you? No running in the house. God damn it, Dina. Yes, Mama. Monica approached me and kissed me on the cheek. A tantalizing smell wafted through the kitchen behind her. Darling, you shouldn't have. What did we have a cook for? I felt like going grocery shopping, just like old times. And besides, you couldn't make your favorite like I can. You mean... You couldn't have. Yes. Zavali. Zavali was a classic Horizon delicacy. Vegetables and creamy sheep cheese sandwich between 2 thin layers of dough. It was absolutely my favorite dish, especially paired with kebuji, a pungent unfiltered wine from Burgea. I mean, that's my lucky day. What's the occasion? No occasion. I just want to cheer everybody up a bit. Her smile faded and she lowered her voice so that Dina wouldn't hear, especially what happened at the ball. I'm worried, Anton, for you, for the children, and for the country. Dina suddenly appeared next to us. Mama, Yes, sweetheart, I'm hungry. We'll eat in just a minute. Will you help me set the table? Anton, can you tell Frank to come down for dinner? He's been sulking in his room all day. Oh, Frank. Oh, I don't want to be in a building that's getting shot at. Coward. Monica started taking out the china. What if... I like how it's still called China, even though I'm sure China doesn't exist in this game. Taking out the china while I headed upstairs to fetch my son. Loud rock and roll music echoed down the hallway from his room. I caught a hint of cigarette smoke. I'm gonna knock on the door. I'm polite. I'm not just gonna barge in. There was no response. I'm gonna knock on the door again. Still no response. I'm gonna bang on the door. Alright. He locked and opened the door. What do you want? Hand over those cigarettes and join your family to dinner. You smoke, don't you? I'm old enough to do what I want. I'm trying to quit that nasty habit. You ought to stop while you can. Frank heaved a high, handed me a packet and headed downstairs. I followed him in the living room. I'm definitely going to smoke my son's cigarettes. The table was prepared and Monica was lading food onto the plates. Come on, have a seat. It won't be tasty if it's cold. As we started eating, everyone went quiet. Monica's cooking was as delicious as ever, and I had a feeling that this wasn't the reason nobody spoke. Monica was the first to break the silence. Say, did you know that they refurbished the grocery store? I didn't know if you remember the owner. He had been there every day for the past 30 years. Can you imagine doing the same job so long? What if you were president for 20 years, for example? "20 years of this, I'd be dead." I realized my poor choice of words too late. Monica looked down at her plate. You know what? Yeah, no, that's probably not the best thing to say. Anyway, the grocery was a really nice person. He threw in some extra vegetables with my... Frank suddenly slammed his hand on the table, rattling the china. Monica, Dina, and I stared at him. So this is how it's going to be? We're just going to sit here like nothing happened. Dad, you could have been killed. Mom could have been killed. Any one of us could have died. Dina lowered her lower lip, started trembling. Monica put her hand on Frank's shoulder. I don't like any of these choices, to be quite honest. And yet, we're still alive. For now, but how long until this happens again? Frank shot up from his seat. Fine. You know what? Let's talk about it. Sit down. Frank took his seat again, scowling. I know it was a close call, but everything was under control. How? How is that under control? Just one roll of sugar. We were not the target. But what if we were? Frank, listen to your father. If your father says we don't need to worry, then we don't need to worry. You have to trust him. The whole nation put their trust in me, Frank, and you won't? Come on now. Frank, come on now. Things calmed down a little bit at the table. We finished our food in silence. Frank got up first and retreated back to his room. Monica lifted Dina up and plopped her in front of the living room TV before returning to the table. She sat across from me. Anton, he's still young. That's what worries me. I made plenty of rash decisions when I was his age. You made plenty of rash decisions now, too. Frank's not the only one who's scared, Anton. I promise you, if there's truly any threat to this family, you'll be the first to know. She got up, stood behind me, and massaged my shoulders for a moment before leaving me alone at the dining room table. I sat alone at the table and drank my glass of kebji. Had I been lying to Frank and Dina? Was the threat to my family truly over? Time would tell. We got any more news? The wrong economy. Political chaos. NFP and LUS call for protest. You are the oldest NGO. Yeah, so you're the labor union of Sordland. Protesting Gruni, protests across Sordland. And what do we have? Political overview. We got some new things in order. There's a nationwide revolt. You know what? That does seem like a problem. And there's also diplomatic pressure. And we don't have any allies. And I don't know if I can, like, talk to anybody. Like, I wouldn't mind getting allies, but I don't think I can talk to any of these people. What about you? Moloch warns traitors. The latest diplomatic message from the leader of Welland warned us regarding a pathway for the mountains of Bergia. that allows traders of the state escaping to Sordland. President Ep.4 has demanded that the border security be increased. He also sent his best wishes to the handling of protests in Sordland. Do you have anything to say? No, not really. Everybody else just mad. Communist Party leader suspected of bomb attacked. You guys up here, United Katana's embassy helped protesters. Weapons have been seized. Illegal firearms found in Communist Party office. Police overburn an escort. Okay, so react to the unrest. The political situation around the country has escalated. The chief strategist, Lucien Galde, has prepared several action plans that we can execute. What will we do to address the intensifying political climate? I'm gonna go with, like, let's not label every protester as a traitor. I'm gonna visit the affected towns in person. I don't know if that does anything. President Rayne talks to protesters. President Anton Rayne visited towns around Great Sordland and Gruni regions, which are heavily affected by the protests and riots that popped up around the country, triggered by the death of Circus. He had seen talking to the protesters related to the concerns of the citizens, sends a powerful message to sort of citizens that the government is walking among them and listening to their problems. Hollisword is desperately trying to restore Sordland's economy after the recession, and his political help is not unresting, said a Sword scholar and professor of law at Horsland State University in Hostelord. Okay, but I think that this is going to be a good time for us to end this episode. So thanks everybody for watching. My name is Anthnwam. If you enjoyed, my thumbs up. Not enjoy, click some down. You want to see more, subscribe, and goodbye.